did build this tank with one fish in mind. Definitely another setback. It's a big bummer. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. This is Troy with Cichlid Bros. In today's video, we are doing a massive update on the big Plywood Aquarium. So much has gone on since the last video. I can't wait to share all the updates. We also ran into a bit of an issue.
Something not that chill happened last night.
But before we get into that, let's do a quick recap of the build. So in the first video, I started building the stand of this aquarium. After the stand was built, we started building the shell of this aquarium with these big plywood sheets. We made the window frame, we started adding some bracing, and then we started waterproofing the inside of the aquarium with pond shield and fiberglass and a lot more pond shield. As that was happening, I was also adding external bracing to this tank and to the tank stand. And then I installed the big front glass viewing panel here, and we ran into a bit of an issue with a leak because the silicone wasn't perfect, but I scraped it out, I fixed the silicone, and all was good on the leak test. So just picking up where we left off on the last video, the next thing we did was paint the exterior of this plywood tank. I might be finishing this with some different paneling, but I just wanted to paint it black for now, and I think it looked way better once it was painted. You'll see I had Alex help here for a little bit because we were also working on another big project in my basement, so more coming on that very soon. But once the paint was dry, it was time to drain the tank so that we could move it into the back corner in its final spot. The two returns have been cut to size, and I am currently using the heat gun to try and get it straightened out a bit so it's easier to work with. This I've already tried a little bit. You can see it's a little more uncoiled, and this one's still like really difficult to work with, so a lot more to go with the heat gun, and then we'll glue this all together before we move the tank into its spot. Okay, so I had the 90-degree return elbows attached to the return hoses and clamped in. I used the heat gun to make sure I could get this into the hosing. Since this vinyl hosing is really tough to work with, I will dry fit it into the tank, make sure it all looks good, and then the next step is to prime and glue. As usual, when I'm gluing these pieces in, I just use purple primer and PVC glue. Pretty simple. We have both return lines glued into place. We're going to let this cure for about 24 to 48 hours. The ends of the hoses are just hanging underneath the tank right now. Once it's dried though, we're going to move the tank into its space here in the corner, and then I'm going to plumb the other end into the actual sump. So a lot's going to happen in the next couple days. Let's go. So the tank is moved into place. It actually wasn't that difficult to move it. I just removed the sump from the bottom, push the tank in place, and then put the sump back underneath. The return lines are glued in, so I have to continue plumbing this and then plumb the drain lines as well, and we're going to get to that very soon. But I also need to do one more coat of pond shield to the vertical bracing here, and just a few touch-ups along the top rim as well. So I'm going to do that now and then glue in the rest of the plumbing so it's all dried by tomorrow. Plumbing continues, and this time with the drain lines here. So we have the 4 drain lines that are all coming down and into the sump. These are all from Custom Aquariums when I did that unboxing, but as you can see they do bow out a little bit here, so I'm gonna go get some clamps to get it closer to the tank itself and then screw it in, and then it goes directly under into all the filter socks there. And I will probably build some type of cover so that you don't see these sticking out quite so much. Obviously this bowing part will be closer to the tank, but I definitely want to hide that as much as possible. And that goes with the rest of the tank. Like the tank stand will be wrapped, the outside here will be wrapped, there will be a box that covers up this fuse box so that you don't have to worry about that. And even though we painted the tank black and it looks pretty good, this is kind of temporary just to see if we wanted to keep it this way, but I still may do some paneling around the outside to fill it all in and maybe do a full exterior update after this video. So we do have options there, but I'm gonna go get those extra clamps and get that pushed into the tank here. Pretty sure I'm keeping Lowe's and Home Depot in business throughout this project, but gotta do what you gotta do. This looks much better with the clamps. It's much more flush against the tank. And like I said, I'll be building stuff around the plumbing and for sure wrapping the stand and making a cutout there. So you hopefully won't see any of this when you're looking at the side or especially from the front. Next up for the plumbing is attaching the water reservoir. Custom Aquariums provides one of these, so I just need to get the bulkheads in place and then glue them in from the outside here. Let's go. That's about as tight as I can get them, so now I'm just going to glue in this piece. Alright, well that's an underrated piece to watch out for, because when I set up my 150, there was a small leak in this that I had to fix last time, so hopefully this is good to go. And since I'm already down here, I'm gonna go ahead and install some of these filter trays which go in the second chamber here. This holds your filtration media, things like bio balls, sponges, or filter floss. And right before I turn this tank on and all the pumps are running, I'm gonna swap out one of these trays of biomedia with one of my other tanks to help jumpstart the cycle so that this tank is ready for fish much quicker, because I'm using pre-seeded media. But mostly in these trays I'm going to use bio balls that come with a seamless sump from Custom Aquariums, so these will be in at least 3 of the 5 trays, maybe 4, and then I'll put filter floss on the top so that the trickling of the water is less noticeable. It's much more quiet that way. And this is just one example of the biomedia in one of the trays, and with all those trays it's a lot of filtration which I'm going to need. So the last part of the plumbing is really to get the return lines connected to the pump that's going to be in the sump, and you can see them hanging down here in the back corner. That's why I left them kind of hanging underneath so we can move the tank into place. But we have to carefully cut these hoses to the perfect length so that they're connected to the T-split that's going to be going to the one big pump in this aquarium. And with those return lines we need to connect it to the pump and the powerhouse of this new tank. And this is the Cichlid Syncra SDC. I have 2 of these, the smaller versions, on my 150 and 135, so I know this is going to be great. And this is the biggest version, the 9.0. So let's go ahead and get this unboxed and see all the adapters here and the power cords. And so this is the big pump, and this guy is going to be pushing a lot of gallons per hour through the tank. It's going to look like this. We need to put on one of the attachments here to feed up into the return line, which will then go into a T-split to the 2 return lines. So I got the pump connected to the return line. Now I got to hook it up to the T. So really quickly you can see in the return chamber, I have the return pump connected to the line. Got the cord going out through that gasket. It goes into a T-split here with both return lines going up. So the plumbing is now complete, and anytime I finish a job like this, I always feel like Zoolander walking into the coal mine. All we have to do now is just let the glue dry for about 24 hours, and then we're gonna start aquascaping. So see you there in just a second. So with the tank in place and all the plumbing dried and ready to go, it is now time to start aquascaping. And I have been looking forward to this step for a very long time. It's really when this tank build starts becoming fun and I don't have to worry too much about the construction or the plumbing of the tank. This is all the fun stuff. And I can't really go much further explaining the aquascape without revealing the stocking. And I know this is a long awaited reveal, so thank you for your patience, but I did build this tank with one fish in mind, and that is a freshwater stingray. It's a nice coincidence that I'm wearing a Carib Sea t-shirt that also has a stingray. That is where all the sand and rocks came from, was from Carib Sea. I knew I wanted the Carib Sea Sunset Gold sand that I have in my 180 gallon aquarium. I wanted to put in this tank as well. I have 400 pounds of sand that I have to be putting in this tank, and that's going to be the bottom layer of the aquascape. And obviously I had to go with sand because I would be getting that stingray. But the stingray won't be the only fish going in this tank. There will be tank mates, and that is all of the cichlids from the 180 gallon aquarium will be getting a huge upgrade, about 2.5 times the size of their current tank. So the Oscar, the Severums, the Walrus, the Geophagus, all of them are going into this 500 gallon aquarium with the freshwater stingray. And since that stingray will be from South America as well, this whole theme and all the fish in it will be from South America. The one exception will probably be the big bala shark. I think he needs to go in this tank as well. But I'm very excited to give them all a really big upgrade and get that stingray. And another really cool thing about giving all those fish an upgrade is that it does open up my 180 gallon aquarium for stocking in the future. And I already know what I'm going to be putting in there, and I'm just as excited for that as this tank with all the stocking and the stingray. So this is really going to set up my basement for the future, and I can't wait. I've had all of this in mind for so long. It's actually a weight off my shoulders being able to finally share it with you. I will keep the restocking of the 180 a bit of a surprise, but everything else here I'm excited to reveal and excited to start aquascaping. So let's go. And I do have some really big pieces of driftwood. So I went to one of my local fish stores. It was actually about a 40-minute drive away, but they had some really big driftwood pieces at SR Aquaristic, and I really like these pieces. I've been soaking them for about 3 weeks, even though they were too big to fit in the tub and be completely soaked. I did soak a majority of the wood, so hoping it stays submerged whenever I put it in the tank and fill it up. So we have the sand and rocks and these really big pieces of driftwood. I'm going to round out the scape with a few fake plants. And I wanted to go with live plants, but of course the Oscar, the Severums, and the Walrus would absolutely eat anything green that I put in this tank. So I do have to go with fake plants. I wanted a few just to give it a color pop and to look a little more natural. And the fake plants that I do go with will be similar to the ones I have in my 180 that I've really liked and enjoyed, and I think they do look pretty real. Okay, so here's one 20-pound bag of sand, and I have 400 pounds of this, so I'm going to be getting quite the workout. One bag down, I think I got 20 to go. Bag number 4. It's tiring work, but I'm just thinking of the stingray. Just think of the stingray. So 400 pounds of sand later, and I have the biggest litter box you could find. I'm sure Rambo will enjoy that. But no, seriously, I think this looks really nice. I smoothed it out as best I could. Now it's time for rocks, driftwood, and plants. So behind me are the rest of the aquascaping materials, including 100 pounds of gray mountain stone from Carib Sea. I went ahead and rinsed some of this off as it was a little dusty, but I laid it all out here. There are some nice pieces. And then of course I got some big pieces of driftwood that I showed earlier, and a few of them are like half soaked right now because they're so big they wouldn't fit in that bin. And since they were soaking for that 3 or 4 week period, I am hoping that they stay submerged whenever I do fill the tank back up, so let's hope that happens. But there is really no way around it. This is going to be a monumental task, getting hundreds of pounds of aquascaping material in the tank and set up. With such a deep aquarium, it is really difficult to get back there, but hopefully I will only have to do this one time, and it'll be far worth it once it's all set up, so let's get into it. So starting here with this massive piece of driftwood, I do want it to be kind of the focal point of the aquascape, but I also wanted to have something that would go throughout the upper and mid levels of the tank as well, and kind of be up off the substrate a little bit so it's not taking away any space from the stingray in the future. And a couple of the smaller pieces of driftwood, I did have the idea to kind of mix them together to make it look a little more realistic. And then lastly, when it comes to the fake plants, I'll probably trim off some of the stems and then glue them to either pieces of the driftwood or the rocks to keep them in place. And we'll have that higher reaching greenery to go along with the big piece of driftwood also extending up in the tank. As we wait for the tank to fill, I think it's a perfect time to install the lighting system so we can actually see the aquascape better. And as mentioned in a previous video, I have 3 Ecotech Radions, which I am so excited to try out on this tank. They're gonna go on a mounting system just above the tank. There's not a lot of room up there, but they will hang down just a bit, and they'll kind of be floating above the tank, all 3 of them, and it's really gonna look awesome, I think. This is what we're working with. We have 3 Radions and 3 hanging kits. And there it is. This guy is a beauty. A lot of LEDs. This is really gonna light up the tank well, I think. And then these hanging kits are pretty straightforward. Just a little bracket that you screw onto the top here. And then the railing, you'll see, will go underneath all of these, so they'll just slide right on this hanging rail for the mounting system. I slid the Radions onto this railing here, and then the mounting system will attach to that. Also, spaces for the vertical braces that we're gonna install right now. We're actually gonna pause on installing this lighting system for now because there's one piece I need from my local fish store to get it screwed into the ceiling. I will be putting this temporary light on here just so we can see in the tank, and the actual lighting system will be installed in this video, but let's go ahead and put this on. Okay guys, well, happened again. We have the second leak from this tank. It's happening right here. It looks like this is the only spot. This might just be from the drain line where this wasn't screwed tight enough. So it was dripping down here, and then there was 2 spots that it looked like it was coming down. I think it went down into the crack here, and then it was dripping here. So it looked like it was coming from the bottom corner, which would have been really bad. But it looks like maybe it was just that one stream that kind of split into 2. It kind of started dripping down right here, so it really freaked me out. But I just started draining the tank, and it looks like the drip is stopped, so it must just be that one drain line, I am hoping, because that is hopefully an easier fix, something I can do today, maybe glue it in and tighten it, but definitely another setback. It's a big bummer. Okay, so once I got the water drained back down below the drain lines, the dripping on this side did stop. So that's a really good sign that it's nothing compromised with the structure of the aquarium or the bottom. It is this bulkhead here, just needs to be tightened and glued better, I think. It looked like the other ones were fine, but I might have to try and check those out too. But yeah, that's a scare for sure. It was a pretty steady stream of water, so hoping I can get that fixed. So I did identify the problem. It was just that one bulkhead for that one drain line, which unfortunately is enough to cause a delay because I do need to figure out how I'm gonna cut out the glue and take out the bulkhead and then reapply it and re-glue it, which takes some time to cure before I continue filling the tank up and turning the pumps on. And with the pumps on, I was hoping the tank would clear up a little quicker, so I can't really show you a perfect view of the aquascape right now. And with this being my first plywood aquarium build and just the sheer size and scale of everything here, it's not a surprise that I have run into a few issues. And this whole process, I've just solved one problem after the other to get to the next step, and that's what we'll do here.
You do the math, you solve one problem, then you solve the next one.
And I know you can't really see the aquascape here, but what I did is put a big piece of driftwood on the right with a couple of plants in between it and some rocks around the base. And I really like how this driftwood piece goes all the way up through the top of the aquarium. And when I do make some DIY lids, I'll just cut out around these branches and it'll look really cool. And on the other side, I mixed in some pieces of driftwood to kind of look like roots of a tree coming down, and I think it will look really cool with some of these South American cichlids. And I do have a couple other plants and a small piece of driftwood that I'm going to put in here as well, but I'm just going to wait for it to clear up so that I know exactly where I want it. And the stingray I'll be getting won't be an adult size yet, so it'll have plenty of space to roam around the bottom of the tank. If I feel like it needs more space, I can definitely make changes, but overall, I'm really excited about this aquascape. And sorry if I'm leaving you on a bit of a cliffhanger like an Infinity War, but hopefully the next episode will be a worthy finale similar to Endgame.
Assemble.
But I'm going to go ahead and get to work fixing this issue so I can get that next video update out to you as soon as possible. But I'm also going to Europe for Interzoo and then Dallas for Aquashella, so I'm going to be gone for about 10 days. And I don't know when that video update is going to come out, but hopefully as soon as possible, because I can't wait to get this set up and running. But yeah, this was definitely a bummer and a bit of a setback to the timeline of this plywood tank. But I'm going to get to work, I'm going to fix the issue, and we're going to have an awesome video in the next one, I promise. Thanks again for watching.